Ayan, we're live. Nakikita na
Yeah.
ba nila tayo? Yeah, medyo may...
Ayan, we're live. Nakikita na ba?
Ayan na.
Hey, good evening, James, John, and Zuriel. Kumusta na kayo?
Evening.
Mabuti naman. Parang hindi na ako sanay na magkita-kita tayo ng ganito.
Oo nga eh. Kala ko
Yeah.
magkakwentuhan lang tayo, marami nang nanonood. Di ko alam kung bakit.
Naks. Sana doon sa kwentuhan, hindi sa amin.
Ipaparapol yata natin si Pastor John no? Ay, hindi,
Ay,
may book pala. Oo.
Oh. Late announcement lang yung book raffle. So, yeah, good evening sa lahat ng nasa Facebook Live joining us for this Church Matters Table Talk. At ito ay regular na every several months bago maulit. Thank you for joining us. So, ang pag-usapan po natin ngayon ay tungkol sa Philippine Gospel Network. And ano ba yung ano ba dyan yung network na yan? Kasi baka ako pag narinig ko yung network ay naisip ko yung mga nag-networking na
sana hindi katulad nun, no?
oo, syempre naman iba naman yung
Oh,
gagawin natin ngayon. So, and we thank the Lord because we have some of our core members na nandito. So, uh, James Briner too is joining us. He's pastor ng Pilgrim Community Church sa
Yes.
Cubao, Quezon City. And John Hofilenia, pastor ng Redeemer Christian Church of Manila.
yes.
Sa Manila. Okay.
Sa Manila.
And
Yes.
Zuriel Bernardino, pastor ng Heroes Church sa BGC Taguig. Okay, so excited ako sa mga pagkukwentuhan natin. Although, we'll see kung saan makakarating yung kwentuhan natin. So, hindi man tayo magtatagal dahil mapapagalitan tayo ng asawa natin kapag late tayo natapos. And
Totoo.
we also have some book raffles. Siguro every 20 minutes
Naks.
gagawin natin yan. So, alam po namin na iba sa inyo ay excited sa book raffles. Pero alam din namin na hindi naman din ito yung dahilan kaya nandito kayo. And we pray that it will be edifying for us and encouraging yung conversation na ito. And so we'll talk about Philippine Gospel Network, but it's not just about kung ano yung network na yun. We'll talk about the gospel. We'll talk about ano ba yung nakita natin ng mga problems sa mga churches natin and how we can help and how we can work together toward that end. Okay, so yeah, first of all, when we talk about Philippine Gospel Network, ano ba yan? So can some of you introduce uh, ano, tungkol saan ba ito? Para saan? So, kapag merong magtatanong sa inyo ng mga kaibigan ninyo na pastor and will ask you ano ba yung network na yan. So, how are you going to explain that?
Usually ano, um, tinuturo ko kay Pastor Alvin. Ah, kasi nga 'di ba, parang when we got together, there was this idea.
Na-mute ka dyan.
Ayan, na-mute. There was this idea that um uh, parang ang common sa atin was yung need for gospel clarity and to see more and more churches and more pastors, no, yung na makita yung gospel ano at the center of um, our churches, no. And yung concern din, no, parang pinapaliwanag ko nga sa usually pag may magtatanong na there is this concern din na nakita namin na nakita natin na um, parang kahit ang tagal na ng mga local churches dito sa Pilipinas, no, parang kakaunti pa rin talaga yung kakaunti pa rin talaga yung and some are even departing, no, from the gospel. So may distortion ganyan na nangyayari. So we hope na by coming together, um, we would be able to yun, parang make a movement, parang forward for pastors who understand and make the gospel a center of their ministries. Mahirap siya ipaliwanag pag ganun, pag kailangan ko talaga kausap yung mga tao pag ganun. Pero feeling ko yun nga talaga yung tamang tanong dapat. O parang why the need to come together.
Mm. Yeah, siguro related din sa question na ito is of course, we want to share what's in our heart na like why are we part of this network and why are we inviting others to be part of this network? Ano ba yung nasa heart natin? Kasi ano ba si James? Dahil mo naman problema siguro sa church, di ba? Or wala yatang masyadong problema sa Presbyterian churches. Hindi, lahat tayo may mga concerns sa mga churches natin. But why spend time with these brothers talking about the gospel, helping each other, sa and helping other churches, di ba? So, ano yung nasa heart ninyo? Why join this network?
Yeah, sa akin Derek, mali ka, no? Marami akong
Grabe ka
problema
naman.
sa
Oh,
church.
yeah. Mali talaga ako. Okay.
Mali yun,
Oo.
wala akong problema. We do have problems.
Yeah.
But one of the things that really drew me is uh, I can see and I'm dreaming alongside you brothers um, for our country, for our brother pastors, to have fellowship, no? Parang siguro only pastors can understand when I say that, pastoral
Yeah.
ministry is a very lonely place to be.
Yeah.
Even though
True.
you're surrounded by your elders and they
Yeah.
love you and your church is around you, it's different. If you're not um, yourself a minister, there are lived experiences that only a pastor can understand. And I think the Philippine Gospel Network, one of the things, although yun nabanggit nga ni John kanina is yung, we want to be all about the gospel. We want to um, help resource churches and pastors. But, you know, even before that, I think one of the immediate benefits for me and one of the things that I hope we can cultivate through this network is the fellowship among pastors.
Mm.
And what's especially exciting for me um, is that we come from different church traditions. We have different liturgical expressions, but we all speak the same language of the gospel, and that's what's really encouraging and comforting for me. So yun, for me, if I can highlight one thing na I'm excited about sa Philippine Gospel Network, and
Yeah.
I hope that we can continue to cultivate is that sense of camaraderie and partnership, giving expression to the Lord's prayer for
Yeah.
his people to be one.
Mm. Mm. So yeah, nagustuhan ko yung sinabi mo din na kasi it's really hard for parang if you're inviting other pastors na maging part ng network, ang dami na nating trabaho sa churches natin. So, parang bakit makikialam pa tayo or bakit mag-spend pa tayo ng time dyan. So, you also have personal reasons na we're not just doing this for many churches, but in a way, we're also doing this for ourselves. And that's not selfishness. Because alam natin na we need the gospel. We need other pastors to speak the gospel sa atin, to hold us accountable. And in a way, it's happening sa mga local churches natin. Pero sabi mo nga, iba yung level of understanding kapag mga pastors na yung nagsasama-sama. Okay.
Ah, good evening sa lahat ng nanonood sa aming live stream ngayon. Maganda yung tanong, no? Why it's personal for us to be part of this network. So maganda na yung nasagot. Gusto ko lang po idagdag. Uh, Actually, jumping off to sa post mo, Pastor Derick, na 14 years, 14 year
Yeah,
anniversary mo
that's
pala. So,
yesterday.
yesterday, no? So,
Mhm.
um, actually, I'm thankful kasi na-realize ko lang na um, I think uh, based at least sa ating apat na nandito ngayon, maybe at that moment, 14 years ago or 10 years ago, the Lord called each of us to a particular ministry. Um, and he has been guiding us along this type of ministry that's gospel centered, Christ centered, and really looking at uh, the biblical foundations of how we can rethink how we do ministry, or even uh, consider how we can contextualize it even in our time to this today. So, lahat tayo tinawag ng Panginoon, but ngayon, pinagtagpo-tagpo niya tayo. And
Yeah.
ako personally, ang isa kong adhikain sa pag-join sa Philippine Gospel Network ay ang paniniwala na walang isang simbahan o walang isang pastor, uh, walang isang ministry ang kaya makapag uh, bago sa ating lipunan. Ito ay isang pagtutulungan. At minsan, ito'y hindi madali kasi may kanya-kanya tayong mga simbahan. Pero sa panimulang ito, meron tayong pagkakataon na magtulong-tulungan, magsama-sama. At for me personally, isa itong mark of the gospel. No? Natulad nga sinabi ni Pastor James, we are not necessarily coming from the same backgrounds, same denominations, pero by believing in one holy Catholic Church na tinawag ng Panginoon, ay may pagkakataon tayo pakita sa lahat na hindi porket magkakaiba tayo ay hindi tayo pwede magkaisa. At pagkakaisa na yan ay isang panalangin ng Panginoong Jesus. At ang pagsama dito sa network na ito ay isang opportunity na ang pangarap ko na talagang maging impactful, maging proud ang mga Kristiyano sa bansa natin. Ay na nakakapagbago tayo ng lipunan, nakaka-contribute tayo
Mm.
positively to change. By being part of this network, I believe na we can create a synergy that can make an impact.
Mm.
So, yun. Personally, yun po sa akin.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we want to serve one another. We want to serve our churches. We want to serve uh, our country. We want to serve other churches. So, uh, ano ba yung nakikita natin na para sa inyo, parang when you observe yung landscape ng Christianity sa Philippines, even those who professed evangelicals, those who profess the gospel, ano yung nakikita natin na deficiency or problem kapag gospel yung pinag-uusapan? Bakit ba natin gustong i-emphasize na we're for the gospel? So, hindi ba dapat syempre pag Christian ka, you're for the gospel. Kapag Christian church ka, you're for the gospel. So, any problems na nagiging burden sa heart ninyo, and how we can help in that way?
Parang isa sa so one of the reasons that I came in and medyo kumbaga confident ako coming in, no, into the network or through to the group. It's because from different church traditions, parang nag-agree lahat ng tao, no, na parte nito na iisa yung gospel, no? Iisa yung gospel. The Bible proclaims one gospel, one truth, and malinaw sa mga tao within the network yun. No, kaya yung the unity or the brotherhood or the coming together here is it's ano siya, no? Parang it's anchored on one truth, no? That's the gospel. Sadly, and I've come from and experienced from different church traditions as I have been moving in a number of churches, different traditions, ganyan, no? Nung naging malinaw yung gospel sa akin, no, that it is a story, there is a storyline that the Bible is pointing to, in the climax of it, at the center of it is Christ. Inaalala ko kung ganoon din ba yung focus dun sa mga ibang church na experience ko. And sadly, yun nga, hindi ko siya nakikitang as focus and as central sa ibang churches. And I would say, no, na parang I would say na there might be a big number of those kinds of churches na hindi, kumbaga, fuzzy yung sa kanila yung idea ng gospel, no. And nakikita ko yung outworking nito in a very bad way, no, in ministries that are not centered on the gospel but on personal ends, no, or numerical ends or pragmatic ends for the church, no. Isa sa mga nagbago kasi dun sa sense of ministry namin as a church, no, is yung centrality ni Cristo at ng ebanghelyo brings with it a certain form of ministry that is it's radical and different, no, from what I was trained with, what I grew up with, no. And yung hope ko is that kapag nagbago kasi yung pagtingin ng church and the people within it dun sa ebanghelyo ni Cristo, nagbabago din yung outworkings nila, yung ministry nila. And yung voice out nga ni Pastor Z na mga bagay, no, na mga that we hope for, no, that we can you can have an impact. Nangyayari lang siya kapag nangyayari siya in the right way, kapag central yung gospel dun sa mga churches na gumagawa ng mga ministeryo. And napapansin din ng ibang mga tao na hindi Kristiyano yung difference, no? In difference. Pag sinabi nila na church, okay, alam ko na yan, no? Alam ko na yan. Kumbaga meron silang preconceived notions about what church is like, and hopefully, no, and I'm praying, no, that more and more pastors and therefore churches, no, would be able to put the gospel at the center, put Christ at the center, and therefore parang minister to the world in very, very different ways. Napansin ko yon kasi nga kilala ko kayong tatlo and with the people that we are. Napansin ko yun sa mga ginagawa ng mga churches ninyo. Kumbaga, I see the line that the gospel is drawing in your churches, and I understand that. I parang ngayon na medyo aware na ako, no, I can immediately kumbaga recognize it when it's there. So yun yung isa sa mga napansin ko no when from our experiences na a church, a 3-year-old church plant sa Manila. Or ako lang ba yun? Baka kayo meron.
Thank you, Pastor John. It's such a joy also to see, and also walk alongside you in your story with your 3-year-old church plant, and how the Lord put us together during that time. And I'm really blessed with to know na I'm not alone in this path, this walk. I actually when I got one of my prayers before planting Heroes Church was God, please prepare people people in ministry to be alongside me, because I don't want to do this by myself. And I think regarding Pastor Derek's question, I think the reason we're all here is because we did see a deep need. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel or fix something that ain't broken. In fact, and I want to clarify na I'm also not saying we're an expert in gospel-centered ministry. We're far from it. In fact, James would know, he was there during the early stage of our church. We're all just really trying to think on the job, or as we started. And maybe 10 years later, we're a little bit more equipped with some learning, some experience. But I think the drive is still essentially the same. There needs to be a clarity with what we mean by gospel-centeredness. It's not easy. In fact, we're considered a Roman Catholic nation, and I think the word gospel will be used even by Roman Catholics. So if the Roman Catholics use the word gospel, evangelical community uses the word gospel, there's a denomination full gospel. It's the multi-use of the word definitely requires sort of an understanding kung ano yung ibig sabihin niya when we use it. So I think this Philippine Gospel Network is an attempt that we all agree, like what Pastor John said, in one gospel, that there's only one gospel that we preach. And not only is it a unity in that gospel, it's a decision to recognize na that gospel changes everything. Our commitment to that gospel is what will make a difference in how we do ministry. So I think this may be a sweeping generalization, pero I think it's given our time tonight, it might be helpful to simplify it a little bit. So for me, the way I can explain it is this way. Minsan, iniisip natin yung gospel, yung mensahe, or alam natin ito yung daan patungo sa langit. Yun lang. No? So, basta alam natin yung mensahe, gets natin lahat, yung lahat ng ibang ginagawa sa simbahan, pwede na natin pag-isipan ng kung ano-anong bagay. Kaya nga naggalingan tayo, yung mga simbahan naggalingan sa musika, naggalingan sa pagpapatayo ng mga building, naggalingan sa mga ushering. Yung iba magaling sa fellowship, sa kainan, sa Sunday school, sa youth ministry. Diba? So, para nangyari, inassume ng lahat na yung gospel ay isang mensahe na pag nagets mo na, dahil natanggap mo ang Panginoong Diyos bilang sugo at Panginoon, tapos na. Kasi lahat na ng kailangan natin gawin ay kailangan gawin ng simbahan para mabuhay yung simbahan. Makapagdagdag ng miyembro, makapag-keep ng miyembro, makapagkuha ng fundraising, at kung ano-ano pa para lumago at lumaki ang gawain. Pero ang nangyari, sa hindi naman natin sinasadya or inaasahan na pangyayari, nagkaroon ng pag-isang tabi, sinantabi natin yung mensahe at naging mas focus tayo sa mga ibang bagay. Kaya pag tinanong mo yung mga tao, bakit ka pupunta sa simbahan? Ano yung hinahanap mo sa simbahan? Ano yung nagustuhan mo sa simbahan mo? Ang mga sagot dyan, maganda yung musika. Nandun tong artista. Nandun, practical yung mensahe. Ako, I think, tonight, gusto kong sabihin sa mga nanonood, ito mga sagot na ito ay maganda sa pandinig. Pero, hindi ito ang mga pangunahing rason bakit tayo dapat nasa simbahan.
Mm.
Ang
True.
pinagdarasal ko at pangarap ko, pag tinanong ang mga miyembro ng mga simbahan natin, anong hanap mo sa simbahan? Ano yung nagustuhan mo? Sana ang sagot natin, kasi doon na ririnig ko ang gospel. Nababago niya yung buhay ko. Napapalapit ako kay Kristo. Yun sana ang pinakapangunahing rason. And kaya naniniwala ako na kailangan talaga ng ganitong samahan, ganitong pag-focus sa ating mga ginagawa. Kasi kung hindi, mas madali lang ma-distract sa ibang mga bagay na importante din. Pero hindi yun yung pinaka-importante. So, yun lang po.
Yan, pwede na tayo mag-closing prayer at hindi kasi tinitingnan ko yung mga nasa comment and they are nag-resonate yung sinasabi ni Z na yes, there are a lot of churches and na-observe din nila na but yun nga, ina-assume na alam na yung gospel ng mga tao. So, they're no longer talking about the gospel sa preaching na para bang kailangan lang yung gospel for yung first, yung sa conversion and parang hindi na siya ganun kahalaga sa rest of the Christian life and how we do the ministry. And yeah, basically that's our burden. That's why we have a Philippine Gospel Network. So we want to make sure na when we meet, we'll always talk about the gospel. We'll hold each other accountable by the gospel. We have a website na ngayon ay wala pang laman pero we commit na to keep yung conversation na yon we'll write about the gospel, we'll share resources about the gospel. And so yeah, we don't assume na dahil matagal na tayo sa ministry ay we're already deep enough sa gospel. The gospel is so deep na wala talaga sa atin makakarating dun sa pinaka-ilalim ng gospel na yun. So, I think si Tim Keller nagsabi no na the gospel is endlessly rich. It can handle the burden of being the one main thing of the church. I think sa center church niya yung nakasulat. So, yeah, I agree with him. And that's why hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na it's so basic. Bakit kailangan pa ng ganitong network? And I will just share yung story dun sa isa sa group namin ng mga pastors a pastor from other church and ako yung nagli-lead dun sa group namin. Nung una alam niya I keep talking about the gospel sa mga meetings namin. Pero lately kinonfess niya ng mga nagsasalita ako about the gospel. Hindi siya naniniwala sa mga sinasabi ko na syempre sa pastor bakit kailangan mo pa na marinig yung mga bagay na. But later on recently he confessed na it makes sense ngayon sa kanya why I'm doing that. Kasi nangyari din sa yung district namin dito sa Bulacan, yung group of churches na merong nauso na isang church growth system na talaga in-embrace na maraming mga churches. Pero nung nagsimula na ako yung maging chairman dun sa Bulacan District, I'm not really talking I'm not speaking against that movement. Ang ginagawa ko lang, I just keep talking about the gospel and pag-usapan natin how it impacts the way we do ministry sa church. And of course, it's still frustrating na marami pa rin, hindi nila nage-gets
Mm.
yung ibig sabihin noon. Pero we're patient. We're trying to reach one pastor at a time, one church at a time, and see how the Lord will work dun sa mga humble efforts natin na yun. So,
Hinihintay kong pangalanan mo yung church growth movement na yun.
uh, alam naman ninyo siguro yun. So,
Okay. Sige.
but we want to see our churches grow. We want to plant more
Of course,
churches.
of course.
We need more churches, di ba?
Yeah.
We send our members to evangelize, pero kapag ina-assume lang yung gospel, or it's being minimized, or where we no longer believe sa sufficiency or power of the gospel, of course, sabi ni Z na we will turn to emphasize other things apart from the gospel. So,
Pastor James, gaano katagal na yung church ninyo sa, well, yung Pilgrim to ano? Gaano na siya katagal in ministry?
Yeah, so natapos ako ng seminary in 2011. Tapos nag-partner kami with a mission board ng sending church namin ng mga panahon na yon to plant, no? So that was 2011. Nag-start kami ng Bible study, prayer meeting, ganon. So ang kina-count namin is 2013. 2013 kami nag-launch ng public service. So yung worship service namin na weekly, June 2013. So approaching 10 years. Yeah.
So gusto ko lang tanong siguro, kasi nanggaling ka din from another church tradition.
Yeah.
Like, was there conscious evaluation when it was starting out? May conscious evaluation ba on so these are the things that I saw from where the church that I came from, and parang how do I want to do things here in the church plan? May ganun bang conscious evaluation sa'yo nung nagsisimula ito?
Definitely meron, no? So because I planted the church, I started out with pen and paper. So as is, as should be the case, if you're starting a ministry, if you're starting a new work, it is good to always start by putting thought to the screen or to paper. So I wrote up a church planting proposal for my project, and I did that in my last year in seminary. So months before graduation, that's when essentially I vomited to the computer what I've been thinking, what I've gained by way of observation and reflection. So dito sa area ng gospel centrality, I would say na the paradigm shift came for me while I was in seminary. And of course, you grew up with the gospel. I'm a third generation Christian. I grew up in church. Some of you might not like hearing this, but I was baptized as a baby. So I grew up, went to Sunday school, and I've always considered myself a Christian. I've always known the gospel, even learn it diba, in church, how to present using the wordless book, using different tracts and materials. But it's always been as to piggyback on what Derick mentioned earlier, Tim Keller. Diba? Keller also always says that the gospel is not just the ABC of the Christian life. It's the A to Z of the Christian life. Meaning to say, it's the
Cool.
it's it's the dynamic of the Christian life. If the gospel is absent, then there is no Christian life to speak of, no. But like I said, the paradigm shift came to me when I was introduced to an article. You can find this online. Earlier, while Z was sharing, I looked it up again. It's still up, no. It's called Assumed Evangelicalism: Some Reflections en Route to Denying the Gospel. It's written by David Gibson, who co-edited the Crossway volume, From Heaven He Came and Sought Her. So David is a friend of mine. He's also in my presbytery. I read this when I did not know him yet. This was more than 10 years ago. But it really made an impression. May sinabi siya rito sabi niya, essentially sabi niya, the first generation believes and proclaims the gospel. The second generation assumes the gospel. That's the word that we've been using, no, throughout our conversation. But when the second generation assumes the gospel, what happens is that the third generation potentially denies the gospel, and what is left are its entailments. Meaning to say, yung shell na lang yung natitira. So the church will still be there. The activities will still be there.
Programs,
you know.
yes.
The programs. But the very heart and soul of the Christian community will have been lost, which is the gospel. Ayun. So for me, that was a paradigm shift. And when, as I said, I vomited my thoughts to paper, ando doon na yun. So that was already my conviction.
Yun pero kasi presently, no, parang yung kumbaga, you guys have been here like what, 10 years kayo ni Pastor Z, maybe sinong nauna? Si
Siya.
Pastor
Si
Z, so maybe even longer, right?
I was influenced by Pastor Z.
Wow.
In the church
Ending
planting.
heroes as well.
Same.
Yeah.
Napapansin ko lang, this is like maybe count mga 5 years ago. No, kami naman ni Arvin is our associate pastor. No, we do some trainings. And then part of our training, usually sa simula pa lang, we don't want to assume anything. Yun nga yung word na yun, ayaw namin. So we have always have a 1-hour track on what is the gospel. So when we submit to church leadership nila ano yung curriculum niyo for this training, na laging nandoon, what is the gospel? A number of churches have responded to us in a way na parang ito hindi na to kailangan. Ito hindi na to kailangan. Parang hindi to kailangan, pwedeng niyo nang skip to para yung iba na lang yung daanan. And parang kami ni Erwin medyo nangingiwi na parang sana wag, no? Parang sana wag. Parang we don't want this to be assumed among your church people. We have to kind of clarify kung ano yung gospel. And ayun, parang yung attitude nga na yun talaga ng usual ng mga churches about the gospel is that yun yung sinasabi ni Pastor Z that we can, once we've shared the gospel and kumbaga we've converted this person, no, parang we can leave it behind, no, and then move on to other things, which is to the detriment of churches, so keeping the gospel central as parang ibang-iba siya nung dinatnan, parang ewan ko kayo medyo matagal na, pero ako parang talagang medyo it's a radical change about parang how to do church and ministry.
Okay, so as pastors, syempre it's part of our calling then to guard the gospel. Especially sa mga members natin, we don't want them to assume na alam na nila yung gospel. That's why sa mga membership classes namin, even sa mga leaders meetings namin, we keep talking about the gospel. And so maganda yung tanong ng isang listener natin na okay, para sa inyo, what is the gospel? So ayaw naman natin assume din na yung mga nakikinig sa atin ay nagkakaintindihan tayo dun sa gospel. We're talking about the importance ng gospel sa mga churches natin. But what the gospel? When I talk about the gospel, ano ibig sabihin nun? Kahit short answer lang. Although mahirap yung short answer because we're talking about the gospel. Pero yung best effort natin to explain what it means. So anong sasabihin natin?
Bato, Pi? Sige.
Anyone.
Sige.
Kahit yung mga nasa Facebook Live, you can answer that question. You can interact pati doon sa mga nagtatanong kasi we cannot talk about lahat ng mga questions dyan. So, there are really a lot of things to talk about the gospel. So, yeah. So, what is the gospel?
I nominate Pastor James.
Sige. So, maikli lang daw sabi ni Derick, no? So, I'll start. So, the gospel is the good news.
Okay.
And I think that's the place to start, no? Because when you talk about good news, it assumes, ayan na naman tayo sa word na assume, word of the night. It assumes bad news, no? So for us, to borrow the language of C.S. Lewis, sons of Adam and daughters of Eve. The bad news is that we share in their sin and in their fall. And consequently, as their heirs, what we inherit is sin and its consequences. No, so that's the bad news, and we are without hope, without help in ourselves to better our condition. The good news is that God has made provision. He has made provision to save a people for himself through another man. No? Sabi ng isang English Puritan, si Thomas Goodwin, before God, humanity is as two men, two public men, no? Adam and Christ. If you are in Adam, then whatever Adam deserves, that you will reap. So everybody, if you wanna imagine it, you have two giants and they have really big belts, parang WWE belts, and everyone else is hanging, on the belt with a hook. So we were all born hanging on Adam's belt, and that's bad news because Adam, in his unconverted state as a sinner, is headed towards judgment, God's wrath. But the good news is, where Adam has failed so miserably, and we with him, God has made provision in his Son. So Jesus comes, the eternal Son of God comes. His name is Jesus Christ. He assumes our human flesh, and he succeeds superlatively where Adam has failed and where we are inutile. So he came, he lived a perfectly holy life. He died an undeserved death on the cross. The third day, the scriptures tell us, he rose again in resurrection power. And he grants to all sons of Adam and daughters of Eve this resurrection life, if they will repent and believe in him. If they would say, as the hymn goes, nothing in my hands I bring, simply to thy cross I cling. Jesus will save. Maybe that's you here tonight. Maybe you're listening. Maybe you've never really considered your place in Jesus. This is the good news, and it's for you if you repent and believe.
Yeah, thank you, James. And yung we are also convinced na when you're talking about the gospel, it's also for me. It's also for us. Na we don't want na dumating tayo sa point of our life and our ministry as pastors na we are we are bored dun sa message na yun. So the more we hear it, syempre hindi naman uh, laging parang scripted, ito yung script, ito yung gospel. But as we study His word from Genesis to Revelation, we discover more of the gospel. And so yun, so yeah, ang bilis ng oras. uh, uh, Almost so 8:45 na. And we'll just take a short break. Pwede siguro magpa-raffle na muna tayo.
Paano mo gagawin daw?
Ito lang. Kasi we're talking about what is the gospel. So, unahin natin pa-raffle yung bundle ito ha. So, isa lang yung winner. What is the Gospel by
Wow.
Greg Gilbert. So, this is hardbound. Saka, ito yung question. Ito yung, ito yung sagot. God is the Gospel. So, by John Piper. And so, actually, si John, tinranslate niya yung book na ito into Taglish. And it's now for typesetting, and together with the Who is Jesus na translation, we're hoping na by March sana ay malabas po yung printed copies nito. And we also have another book na nagsimula yung translation kahapon lang, The Gospel by Ray Artland, How the Church Portrays the Beauty of Christ. So, complementary itong What is the Gospel ay para makatulong sa atin how to be fluent in speaking about the gospel. And yung kay Ray Artland ay yung The Gospel, How the Church Portrays the Beauty of Christ is will convince us kung bakit talaga central yung gospel sa church and ano yung dapat nating gawin as pastors, as members in church to make sure na yung gospel yung nasa central place ng church natin. Okay, so we'll have one winner. Ang sagot lang po ninyo yung shipping fee. Message lang po ninyo sa Treasure in Christ. So ang gagawin ko, I'll just ask a question. Yung una makakasagot ng tama dun sa question na yon, at least dito sa aking yung makikita ko sa comment section, ang siya pong mananalo. Okay? Ang question ko, actually, kung tinitingnan ninyo yung, if you're familiar with Philippine Gospel Network or nakita nyo ibang comments, simple lang. Ano yung website URL ng Philippine Gospel Network? Okay, yun lang.
Pinost ko na kanina yun.
Oo nga. Okay. Pwede bang i-copy-paste? So, kung sino mauna. Okay? And kapag in-announce ko na yung winner, I can stop posting yung sagot. And then pagkatapos po nito, I will proceed dun sa discussion natin. Alright?
Wala. Naghahanap pa yata sila.
Yeah, official website ng
Philippine Gospel Network.
PGN.
Ayun na. Ayun na.
Ayun, so
Sino na una?
tama ba? Ang nauna ay si tingnan mo kung tama. So may ano pa to, HTTP s / so gospelnetph.org. Jonathan Ching.
Jonathan Ching.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah. So kailangan ko lang i-note. Yeah. Kami nanalo na po. So you can stop.
You can gospelnetph.org.
So Jonathan Ching. Okay, paki-message lang Treasure in Christ how to claim your, or pwede kang kung malapit ka lang dito sa office namin sa Baliwag.
Bulacan.
Baliwag, Bulacan. You can also drop by at sagot pa namin ang kape mo, di ba?
Pero kung malayo, i-ship na.
Malayo, shipping na lang. So, pero ikaw na magbayad ng shipping. Okay, congratulations kay Jonathan Ching. Okay, so yan, meron pa tayong ibang books pero sa dulo na lang yung I think we'll have 2 winners dito sa 4 books remaining. Okay, so we're talking about what is the gospel. I think we can focus the rest of our time. Yeah, just talking about, pinag-usapan na natin kanina bahagi bakit mahalaga yung network na ito. But we can still talk more about that kasi mayroong question dito parang maybe some of our listeners ay hindi naman sila pastor. Kasi at this time, we are limiting yung mga members ng network to pastors. We want to serve first, syempre yung mga pastors. Pero it doesn't mean na hindi magbe-benefit yung mga non-pastors because as we serve yung mga pastors, of course they are serving our local churches and we're helping other local churches. So, mayroong question dito na how like siyempre maaaring iba sa kanila nakikinig tapos they want to convince their pastor na maging part ng network natin. So, and they probably don't buy in sa mga pinag-uusapan natin dito and so paano daw niya mako-convince yung kanyang pastor na mahalaga itong PGN or not necessarily our network, maybe may mga ibang network din naman na hindi lang naman tayo yung gumagawa nito. So
But the gospel though,
yeah,
di ba? Parang
at
yun
least
talaga.
you're part of a group of pastors na andun yung intentionality na to keep the gospel yun yung nasa central place of life and ministry.
How to convince, yun ba yung tanong?
Yeah, pwedeng balikan natin yung pinag-usapan natin kanina sa simula na bakit mahalaga ito sa mga pastors. And mamaya I'll talk about how. Okay, how at ano yung mga gagawin pa natin together. So,
I can start. I think
okay.
just sharing yung from my experience. So many of you know na I had the opportunity to learn and study Gospel Center Church Planting in New York under Tim Keller through the Ministry of Redeemer Church Planting Center, which is now City to City. And of course, at that time, when I did that training, that was very parang mind-blowing for me. So my emoji na nung time na yun. Mind-blowing talaga. I still remember the first week and parang how there was a triangle drawn on the board. And then on the top was God and theology. And then on one side was community or the church context. And then on the other corner was the pastor. And how these these three factors contribute greatly to the church. I always felt as a son of a pastor myself na parang here in the Philippines from our experience, what drove the church was you know theology of God and uh, what the church needed. So when the training unlocked that other part na the church planter or the pastor is also very crucial. That really invited me to really think about this uh, very seriously. So fast forward to actually ending the training with a project proposal for planting a church. Came back to the Philippines, tapos wanted to contextualize my learning, so served muna under my dad's church. Parang to re-immerse myself into Filipino ministry. At that time, as much as I wanted to look for other friends or other fellows or maybe even other pastors who could show me the way na of this parang new paradigm of gospel-centered ministry. Para I was limited to I found myself limited in that aspect. Not to say, of course, that the pastors around me were lacking. Yung focus lang yung iba lang yung focus nila eh. So at that moment, I wish na, looking back, there was a network like this I could join, so I can be sharpened, or I can also learn, ask questions, uh, be at the community of fellow practitioners. So tulad na sinabi ni Pastor Derick, it's not so much parang having an exclusive group, but it's really creating space for pastors who need it too, diba? So so I think that's one good uh, ex- from experience that I wanted to share. No, na this is a gift. Uh, this is a resource, the community resource that will be helpful for pastors exploring or maybe trying to see what gospel-centered ministry is, what it's all about. I'm sure we can learn from each other, and um, yeah, I think that's one thing I would like to encourage people to consider. So if you're a pastor, you don't have to feel like you're not with anybody. Kaya nga doon sa website, you click on it or you go to it, you see immediately we are a band of brothers, di ba? So that's very important. Um, so this is really for you. This is for 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 pastors to really find a safe place to to grow then. Kasi even as pastors, we also still need to grow, di ba? And as I said earlier, we're not experts. We're not trying to be experts. We're also learning uh, together. So yun, that's it for me.
Yung sige, share ko yung kakabit na story nung kay Pastor Z. Kasi there was ano ba to? There was a sort of kind of a beta edition or beta version of this one. It was a Facebook group, no, where just people were there, and sometimes people would post. And ako ngayon yung pastor na I they yung pinanggalingan ko church, they asked me to become pastor at around 2015, no, and then this group kind of showed up around 2018, ganon, Facebook group na invite ako doon. So I was there, no. One time one time nag-post si Pastor Z doon na parang mag-start sila ng isang discussion group, or a book reading group on Tim Keller's Center Church, no. Yun nga yung nagsimula kasi yung desire ko to learn from other people. I just didn't know where, no. Yun yung problema ko noon kasi parang yun nga parang sa akin, katulad ng feeling ni Pastor Z, parang there was just a kind of a limitation on saan ako pupunta, no? Saan ako pupunta, or will there be parang brothers who can clarify these things for me? So malaking tulong yung sitting down in a group with other pastors and learners, no, dun sa pinag-aaralan namin yung kasama si Pastor James, the first time kong makilala si Pastor James din nun. It's talking about church and ministry, and so they were there first, nauna silang mag-church plan. What does that look like? What does basically kung kapag sinasabi namin gospel centrality dito sa live stream na to, mas natutunan ko siya coming from stories of other pastors. What does gospel centrality look like sa mga certain problems, certain issues na nagka-come up sa church nila, and what does it look like? No? Anong nangyayari, anong ginagawa, ano yung mga bagay. So natutunan ko siya from other brother pastors, no? So if you're like, yun nga, yung kung ang pastor ninyo o ikaw bilang pastor, yun yung feeling mo, yung feeling ko dati na parang kailangan kong matuto from other brother pastors, then this might be a good place to start, no? Ang plano nga namin talaga is ang hirap lang talaga nito kasi, of course, di ba, parang archipelago, so merong Visayas and Mindanao. But people here na malapit sa Manila, we're trying to come up with a regular regular fellowship where we can come together and just learn from each other, tell each other stories, mga challenges, ganyan. And hopefully we can learn from each other. So yun yung experience ko, no? And then malaking tulong siya in where we are right now as a church.
So if you are a pastor, you want to be part of this network, or you're just trying to explore, kasi kahit naman kami, we're still trying to get some clarity kung ano ba talaga yung what we're really trying to do together. Kasi we're in conversation about this for the last 2 years,
2 years.
and for some of us even even before that. So just go to gospelnetph.org, and you can see yung vision doon, and also a confessional statement or a statement of faith, what we believe, and that will set some boundaries, because we're coming from an understanding of the gospel, and yung ilang areas of theology na some of our brother pastors may not be in agreement with. So mahalaga na basahin ninyong mabuti yon. And so siguro sagutin lang natin yung question na so you can sign up there, and we also invite you sa network meeting, although kahit you're just still exploring, you're welcome to attend sa February 17, 10 a.m. That's Friday, sa Pilgrim Community Church sa Cubao. And some of you are from the provinces, so medyo challenging. So we're still exploring if we'll open a Zoom meeting kasabay nung meeting na yun. So we'll see if many others are interested from iba nasa ibang bansa, iba nasa ibang isla. So yun. So but maybe we can spend some time talking about sino ba yung mga pastors na we want to be part of this network. Kasi may question din dito na ito ay para lang ba sa mga reformed or reformed leaning sa theology. So, and if you're a part of this network, ano bang gagawin natin? What we're trying to do together. So maybe we answer first yung first question.
Which one? Sorry.
Yeah, yung sino yung mga pastors na who can be a part of this network. Kasi yeah, of course, people will notice na at least tayo and yung iba pa nating kasamang core members, we agree at least majority dun sa reformed theology. Syempre hindi lahat. Some of us are Credo Baptist, iba ay Pedo Baptist, merong Presbyterian, merong congregational. So but in terms of agreements, reformed soteriology, I think people will notice na we're coming from that background. So and people might ask na, of course we want to be we want to be na focus natin is about the gospel. Bakit necessary na merong ganong boundaries? So
I think the statement of faith or yung what we believe in na nakalagay sa website is parang should set you in the right direction.
yeah.
So puntahan niyo yung website and you read through the statement of faith, and that will put some boundaries. So there will be stuff there that parang medyo baka malabo pa sa'yo, ganun. But if this is something that you want to I think learn about, no, yung mga bagay na ito, then coming to one of the meetings and asking the questions, so probably clarify that for you, that we can talk to you when we fellowship together. But ayun nga, yung statement of faith will put necessarily some boundaries into when we say we believe in the gospel, we believe it in this certain way, no? This certain way which we see from the Bible. Ito yung nakikita namin galing sa salita ng Diyos. So, ganun. Meron tayong statement of faith na pwede niyong tingnan, no? So that you can kind of see where you are pagdating doon sa mga bagay na yan.
Yeah, even if you're not yet sure sa ibang mga areas na yon, yeah, we can we can talk naman. May mga series of interviews we want to get to know you, makilala rin ninyo kami. And if there are some certain disagreements na significant na maaring mag-disrupt sa unity natin as a network, and then yun yung mga kailangan din talaga na pag-usapan kasi we're trying to really work together for the gospel. Pero kung may mga significant halimbawa issues sa theology na pag nag-meet tayo ay pag-aaway-awayan pa natin, so madi-defeat yung purpose ng network. So, but James, do you want to add anything to that?
No. Yeah, I think have a look at the confessional statement. Read the familiarize yourself with the website. Wala naman laman yan, so
Isa lang, yun lang.
it won't take a lot of time.
Magmi-meeting pa tayo ha kung ano ilalagay natin
Ano
laman.
lalagay namin dyan?
Yeah. And we're also asking other pastors to contribute, right? So,
Yeah.
So
I think what we want is to be able to agree on certain central truths about the gospel and about church, no, and about the church's mission. And beyond that, like Derick mentioned, we come from different traditions, and we don't agree on every single point of doctrine. But we're brothers. We love each other, and we're here to support one another and to give expression to our unity in Christ.
okay. So, anong gagawin natin? So, as we work together, so anything to get people excited about, and so ano yung mga gagawin natin? What's on your mind?
Mga gagawin ng network?
Yeah. Hindi man tayo magkakapilang at magkukwentuhan.
Magkukwentuhan, no? There's hopefully nga yung sa website, we will be able to slowly put up, articles that you can read that can help you, especially in the Philippine context, no?
Yep.
So in the Philippine context, what this looks like, no? So yun nga yung magandang tulong doon. I know that there are lots of resources out there, no? Gospel-centered resources even, no? Pero we're hoping as kami ni James yung curate nitong mga bagay na ito na makikita sa website is to help Filipino pastors kind of get through questions or issues about the ministry. So isa yun, no? Another is hopefully, no, we will be Treasuring Christ was doing a pastors conference before. Napagkasunduan yata ito ng isang meeting na sasaluhin na ito ng Philippine Gospel Network. So hopefully in the next few years or months, mapag-usapan namin to. But in the next 2 years siguro.
Hopefully before the year ends, even a small conference, we can get together.
Just
so
get together with the pastors. So somewhere there, no, a pastors conference would be good. It was a good time. Naalala ko dati yung pastors conference that Treasuring Christ was having. But now, if getting in the context of yung Philippine Gospel Network, that
Mm.
we can probably have more, parang mas diverse yung group, no? And we'll be learning from other pastors.
Yeah, and talking about the website, we already have like lots of content sa iba-ibang ministries, di ba? Like halimbawa sa Pilgrim, sa iDisciple, Treasuring Christ, and other web pages, yung Reform Pinoy. So we have a lot of partner ministries na already working together, so we can curate yung mga articles, mga resources, and we'll just really share ideas. Kasi napakahalaga na we keep sharing ideas, especially we are being bombarded with a lot of distortions ng gospel. So, if we can keep yung conversation going through websites, social media, and mga network meetings natin, conferences, and if James can write a book about the gospel, then di ba? So, whatever we can do to contribute. So yun. So ano pa? Ano pang gagawin natin? So the others can pray for us. Even if they are not pastors, I know na some of you na mga members ng mga churches are really praying for us, and we thank the Lord for that.
Yun. Salamat. Mamigay ka na ng libro.
Mamimigay na, okay?
Oh,
Okay na, wala na tayong pag-usapan. May mga ibang questions pa dito, pero yeah, we cannot answer all your questions, but we apologize for that. Kasi kailangan namin magpamigay ng mga books at iniintay ng iba. But siguro before that, last ano na lang, na even if a lot of pastors will not be a part of our network. Definitely. Ang daming pastors sa Pilipinas, diba? So, we're not really trying to recruit everyone. Pero even if they're not part of the network, any word na you can say sa mga pastors, maybe based from our experience, what we learned from the Word of God, na if you're a pastor, even if you'll not be part of network of churches, just yung focus sa congregation na pinagkatiwala sa ng Panginoon. Yeah, anong pwede nating sabihin sa kanila na you just prioritize 2 things, 3 things. Kahit maikli lang, hindi kailangan masyadong paliwanag. Just a reminder na we are your brothers, kapatid namin kayo sa Panginoon, and we're praying for other pastors na i-prioritize yung mga ganitong bagay. So, yeah, maybe 2, 3 priorities para sa isang pastor sa ministry niya sa local church.
Okay, ako na.
Yeah.
So, to my fellow pastors, I want to encourage you to prioritize 3 things. Number 1, prioritize your preaching. As pastors, that's your primary thing. Minsan pag nakikipagkilala ka sa mga bagong tao, what do you do? Iba doktor, iba lawyer, businessman, basketball player. Ako pastor. Suddenly isip nila, trabaho ba yun? Di ba pang Sunday lang yan? So yun ang commonplace thinking. But ako ay di naman ako na fade ng question kasi I know that during this week, for example, I probably spend 24, at least maybe 24 to 40 hours looking at studying, preparing for a 30 to 40-minute sermon. So nakikita lang ng tao yung output pag Sunday. Pero uh, as a pastor, I hope you can prioritize, the study and focus on preparing your sermon, not only for this Sunday, but preparing for your church calendar, annual calendar, book study series. It's all connected. So for me, yan, prioritize preaching as a very important task. Number two is prayer. As a pastor, do not neglect as a clergyman. Uh, Prayer is something that is, that should be with you all the time. So maraming kinds of prayer, but I'm talking about, your spiritual walk with the Lord, communing with God, uh, personally, not only during scheduled prayer times or prayer meetings, but really your personal communion and time with the Lord. And lastly, tatlong pito, three priorities of a pastor. P, people. Okay? And when I say people, hindi yung madlang people na
Yeah.
sanlibutan. People that the Lord brought to you as your responsibility, which is your church.
Yeah.
So, as a pastor, you want to be available, present, and really connect with your people. And ako, ang encouragement ko sa mga pastors sa Philippines, maliit lang ang average size ng church dito sa Pilipinas.
Yeah.
Mga 50 to 70 average for the whole Philippines. So yung mga mega churches na naglilibo, outlier po yan. So tayo bilang mga pastor, if ang average church size na hinahawakan ng isang pastor ay 50 to 70 people, na malamang yung sa grupo na yan may mga pamilya na. We're talking maybe about 30 to 50 households. So this is a very small handful of people that the Lord, brought to you to be cared for. So, alagaan natin sila. Focus tayo sa kanila. Ang importante, kilala natin sila kilala tayo, at hindi kailangan mag-trending or sumikat.
Yeah.
Basta yung church na binigay sa atin ng Panginoon, na minamahal natin at naalagaan, yun ang priority natin as pastor. So, ako yun po, tatlo. Preaching, prayer, tsaka people. Thank you.
Nag-isip ako bigla ng
Pwede na siya maging Baptist.
Oo, tatlo.
Pwede na.
I will piggyback on whatever yung sinabi ko kanina nung una. Yung pag-assume natin sa gospel is something that I did very early on in ministry. Siguro yung meditation on and yung looking upon yung with clarity, even to lower your pride and say, baka hindi ko pa alam to. No? Kasi parang the gospel is something that most pastors would say, okay, we know that, no? But there had to be a time para sa akin, no, very important para sa akin yun, very essential yung time yun. That there was a time when I had to say I did not understand it. No, I did not. I do not understand it the way that it was supposed to be understood. Kasi in that yung admission, then one can pray to the Lord and parang, but Lord, I want to understand. I want to understand. So show me in your word kung ano ibig mong sabihin. And yun nga yung clarity na dala ng ebanghelyo when it is at the center of what you do in church. It radiates and trickles down to all the other ministries that the church does. and begins to change those things. Huwag lang kayo matakot dun sa change kasi usually yun yung kalaban natin usually pagdating parang we've been doing this for like this for the longest time and we want parang ayaw na natin baguhin kasi nakakapagod yun, nakakatakot yun kasi hindi mo alam kung ano mangyayari. But if the clarity that is brought by the gospel as it is made central in your church will necessarily change things, no? Pero huwag kayong matakot, no? Because I think it liberates more than it enslaves, no? It liberates your church to do things the way that the church is supposed to be doing things. Maganda siya. Ibig sabihin, kumbaga, yung mga pressures na nilalagay ng mga pastor sa sarili nila noon to achieve, to reach pragmatic pragmatic na targets, dahan-dahang nawawala, no, pagdating sa dahil dun sa centrality of the gospel. And so I cannot yun nga nung nire-recount ni Pastor James yung gospel, parang it's still good, no? Parang sobrang sarap pa rin yung pakinggan, no? Because parang everything kind of revolves around that. And so sana mahanap nyo rin yung ganung parang pagka-convince, no? Yung conviction na we want that to be the center of our church because yun nga tabi nga ni Lolo Tim Keller, it can be that one thing, no? The one thing that carries the church community.
Okay na yun, James, no?
Yeah, okay na.
Yeah, so watch your life and doctrine closely.
Yeah.
Preach the word faithfully. Love your people. Sino yung binigay sa atin ng Panginoon. Alright, so thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, John. Thank you, Z. Thank you, James. So
Thank you.
magkapaalam na tayo.
Thank you po. Thank
Teka,
you sa lahat.
may nakalimutan tayo. Baka magalit sila. So,
May
Yeah.
libro pa eh.
yeah, meron pa nga pala. Okay, so.
2 winners.
Yeah, so one winner ng Gentle and Lowly by Dane Artland. The Heart of Christ for Sinners and Sufferers. So, ang winner po natin ay kung sino ang unang makapag-type sa comment section ng verse reference ng Come to me, all of you who are weary and anong kasunod doon?
Heavy laden.
Heavy laden, and I will give you rest.
Anong verse yun?
Yeah. Paki-check na lang
Sinecheck
James
ko.
kung tama. Tsaka kung tama.
Matthew 11:28.
Yun, si Jopoy
Jopoy
Pesigan.
Pesigan.
Tama ba, Matthew 11:28?
Tinitingnan ko. Ayan, tama naman.
Tama. Okay. Yeah. So, congratulations kay Jopoy. Yan. Paki-message ang Treasure in Christ.
Treasure in Christ.
And then, last winner. 3 books ito,
Grabe, 3.
Oo.
Wow.
Expositional preaching. Nakabaligtad pala yung skin ko, no? Preaching Christ.
Tama naman yan.
In all of Scripture. Edmund Clowney. And Finding Faithful Elders and Deacons. So, isang winner lang, yung 3 na ito. So, if you're a pastor, you are eligible to join. Pero if you are not a pastor, at ikaw yung nanalo, ang request ko lang ay pwede mo siyang panregalo sa pastor ninyo. Okay? So, paki-type ang verse reference ng preach the word, be ready in season and out of season. So, ang nakalagay na passage yun. Preach the word.
Hosea. Hindi, joke.
Habakkuk. Titus
Preach,
yata yun.
preach
Wala.
the word.
Preach the
Be
word.
infant.
Ayun na.
Ha? Meron na?
Meron na. Si Billy Jones.
Ba't di ko pa nakikita sa akin?
Billy Jones, Bangkulita.
Oh, ayun, okay. Billy Jones. Tama ba? 2 Timothy 4, 1-4.
1-4.
Parang
Yeah, tama, tama.
sinakop mo
Sinama niya
lahat,
lahat. Yung may context dapat.
Okay. So, tama yun. So you
Tama yun.
interpret yung verse in context.
Yeah.
Magandang lesson sa preaching. Congratulations kay Billy Jones Bangkulit.
Kulita.
Bangkulita. Okay. So yun. So we're done. Thank you for joining us and abangan nyo na lang po ang susunod na episode ng Church Matters. Hopefully, bago magtapos ang taong ito. Hindi, we'll have we'll share some resources na pwede natin pag-usapan sa susunod. And hopefully, you can still join us, John, Zuriel, James. And see you on February 17, right?
See
Brother
you,
James,
see you.
magkikita tayo
Yes.
next week pala, no? Okay, sige.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, brothers, for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thank you.
Good night. God bless po sa inyong
Good night.
lahat.
Right.
Bye.